This is Deb Helfrich, hashtag redheaded She-Hulk. Aubrey Marcus. Thanks for the way you exhibit consciousness on your podcast. And from Dispenza to Aaron to McConaughey to meeting Vailana and understanding what a relationship that comes together in 2020 can feel and look like. My inner Parkinsonisms. Obesity is a Parkinsonism. And I got up to 333 pounds. And using Dispenza's book, Supernatural, which is what's ignited this whole stream here to me feeling like we're going to be BFFs and do some world evolving, because I'm the founder of hashtag Wellbeing Philosophy. I've got a way to start thinking about human potential and executing immense pivots in the world at the grassroots level. We just need to raise the thinking quotient, the life-centric thinking quotient of every human on earth. Just a little bit more philosophical, just a little less fearful, a little bit more future-oriented versus past-dependent. Future-oriented is creative. Creatively analytical thinking, which is life-centric thinking, which is 100% first and foremost, before you get to any of the good stuff, you must be purely anti-racist. You must utterly understand that dehumanization is wrong. You must be in tune with the fact that we're all African ancestrally. That indigenous tribes in the Americas, Africans, Aboriginal Australians, Africans who went on rowabout. This is my genre. This is what I want to do. When you just in your podcast talking about the darkness retreat, which, to me is not a very challenging thing to do. I can imagine how people there's fear about it. When I say that I've lost 150 pounds in the 15 months after turning 50, no diet fretting, no exercise, nothing in those realms. I just fast. I just don't eat. People get so scared of not eating. People get so scared of not having light. Look at us, like animals. In those states where we're like, food must like a rat dripping water from a cage, sugar water from a cage, right? That shit needs to be always on. Well, you know why? Human infants are supposed to be able to have breast milk on demand. We're supposed to have that certainty of those needs. And then we grow up a lot more natural than those of us who got bottle fed on schedules. We didn't get that satiation, an ingestion. When you're born, this is one of the interesting things I learned doing a little bit of heart variability research down the intertubes and ending up in asking a question that I didn't think heart rate variability had much to do with, but I learned it did. Mammals, all mammals, and this is a sheep study. Mammals are born using ingestion to regulate their nervous system. Sometime in the first year of life, humans, I never did get a good answer to this, our nervous system is supposed to evolve to using our bonding, our caretakers, our environmental cues to regulate our nervous system. Our environment's supposed to make us feel safe. And then we move past needing food on demand. I needed food on demand until I turned 50. I invented really creative one-woman show ways to make myself feel safe, like creating my future, like doing skits and plays like this little Vimprobbing bit. Here's a potential conversation I might have with Aubrey someday, and let me just figure out how to get it to him, because I need to have these kinds of conversations with humans. I have failed. Like I'm like a puddle of nervous system goop that is it's just waiting for a core group of humans to just be like, oh, that's a really cool thing you've invented, Deb. And I'm just right ahead of things. I'm one of those before my time peeps. Mental-bation. Have you mentioned yet that it's just hearing you say the word mental-bation and the cascade of healing? Like I'm just wowzers, am I lit, as McConaughey would say. Having this Socratic monologue over here with myself. I'm working out. I mean, I'm actually now getting lactic acid. Oh, and the reason why is this. So I broke my left arm and I had a big double cut of nails down my left side of my leg. As I've been doing all this childhood trauma healing, the body fixes itself. I can literally feel it. So like lactic acid started and I mean, I mentioned it to you literally, within the 3 to 5 second window of like really grokking that it's still like experiencing a great deal of pain in this left forearm right now. I'm sitting here talking to you. I promise, not a heart attack. But yeah, they're probably, I mean, again, I've shifted up into gamma. So I'm going through a phase of really high wattage. And I got the bandwidth to carry my wattage. It's part of having a larger body and having a really expanded biofield. And while it can turn into some severe dysfunction, my little special psi capacity. We hear about telepathy, clairvoyance, clairaudience, things like that. What I am doing is explaining and demonstrating my embodied capacity to have extremely world-class homeodynamic balance capacities. My brain and body are optimized to be like this 1 in 7.8 billion human trying to evolve consciousness, as a degreed philosopher. 2021's Sherlock, who enacted, in order to be able to do the work that I was born to do, which is be a philosopher, I had to live to 50, decide I knew how to enact losing 200 pounds to be fit enough to do this. So right now I've got this left arm sort of in traction. I'm holding on about mid-shin. So I've got the top of my forearm pressure my knee, and so what's happened is the lactic acid is up into here more. And now as I'm pointing this out, I'm feeling the stretch back here on the right side. just invented the genre. I call myself the founder of #wellbeing philosophy, which is making clear, anti-racist, life-centric thinking about human potential a necessary global public good. And how I'm going to do that? Get enough collaborators and financiers and such. Become the world's first stand-up philosopher, one-woman improv specialist, #redheaded She-Hulk. The mental-bation I do, which is trying to stay safe from people like my landlady, who's just, I'm the only one, she's sort of basically alone. So the only thing she can do with her fear is transmuted into anger at me. And I've always sort of found myself wanting to do my great works in the world and being in my mental space. And I've never been able to bring them forth out to find collaborators, because the sort of near-in centuries of the people, my parents, my community of origin, now this community in general, and the landlady situation, these first peoples, not only have they not seen me, but they get angry at my playing, my capacity to be like, okay, well, here's a problem, and I've invented a brand new world. Like this joyful girl-like quality. When I set up the problem, because that's, to me, logically, I am always leading with the problem, and people, don't be whining. And I'm just being efficient. I'm like, I had this great idea. I want to do something in the world. You'll really think I'm bonkers if I just state that. So let me state up the problem, and then usually a couple premises, and then the solution. And that's like how logic and things work. But when you do that just as a child, in my environment, again, I don't know whose environment, what's environment might have been different, but in my environment, you got punished for being analytically creative. And mental-bation is me constantly having these arguments in the philosophical sense, right? Not to say fully emotionally bereft, but my pretty much standard, way too dull emotional set point is not being touched for the first 17 years of my life, rode alongside. There was no emotion in my family of origin. And this is the intergenetics that came passed down and passed down. Like there was no emotion. It was all just, everything had to be even keel. Every time it was all good, except for my dad's rage and anger when he was fearful. Very much like afraid of, lightning and thunderstorms sort of a situation that I didn't notice my whole childhood. Until dogs, the difference between his dog and my dog, and this more, even not even just in the dog's reactions to the storms, but then the verbal talking of the human to the dog about the storm. Seeing that really as formative to me for, the terror I experienced over some of his rage, the lack of safety in expressing myself. It's very rare that I truthfully got it directed at me. You know, there was never any actual occurrence of abuse in the way. I always, you know, any of the stories I've heard that I might be looking for it, there was no abuse from my father, none. Thank him and gratitude for that. But there was also never being cherished. That's what I suffered. You know, I'm sort of still right at this 0 point XY axis. Nothing bad really happened. But in the realms of relationships, nothing good has ever happened yet either. Just right here, like waiting for my first human relationship. At nearly 52, like full on, like reciprocal, you know, colleagues, co-workers, build a business together, launch, you know, darkness retreat, Aubrey. You know, look at in the depth of this emotion, how in absence of being taught, I'm very playful, as I think most kids are when you get up sad and create a story about a better outcome that you want to then go make happen in the world. But we disallow children from doing that. Sure, there are some rules in the world, right? You can't start making buildings out of Jell-O, but you can make a Jell-O building for what it's worth, for its coolness and its little tiny, you know, righteousness on a tablescape. That's how education should be happening. Kids get to ideate absolutely everything. And the adults come in and say, well, let's go at that. And here's what we know about putting a framework around how to get that done right now. You give the kids the tools. Some kids need the tools of really great English. Some will need math tools. Some will need science tools. Some will need to know a bit more about history. I need to be really great philosophers. The absence of philosophy in 2020. That's the single biggest problem the US of hypocrisy has endured this whole year. We had more what would commonly be called critical thinking going on. If everyone wasn't reacting, if everything wasn't fear-based, if everyone just do life-centric thinking, keep people alive, and then let's keep iterating let's keep more people alive, and let's work our way out from this. Oh, but no, it's just silo after silo of different things that don't complement each other. That's why I'm going like this, gloves. the single greatest philosophical gift, if y'all had allowed Ms. She Socrates a little bit of public airtime, I'd have y'all wearing gloves. It's not airborne so much as it's our addiction to stuff. The particles are getting onto the stuff and they're staying viable for a while and then rehydrating. If we partner gloves with the masks, I know we would see a statistically relevant decrease in communicability. And now I don't know exactly which material gloves, right? Do we all need, is winter gloves fine, good? Can we agree on a certain something, is it just plastic gloves? I don't think that I want most people, we don't need to kill another section of the ocean with overusing plastic gloves, but we just need to acknowledge that this virus is mostly being transferred by what we touch, our need for all this stuff. The virus isn't moving, it's getting on the stuff and we're touching stuff, and people don't know that they're spreading because of the very long incubation period. And people can't handle that factor, and the test doesn't grant immunity. And in fact, being in a line of people getting a test is probably the quickest place to most assuredly get the virus. The chess game of adaptation with a virus is what you're going to get in high value entertainment from whoever patrons my podcast. Helps me bring the hashtag Redheaded She-Hulk Chronicles of 2021. She Sherlocking human health. Pandemic, chronic disease. I just need to redefine chronic disease, y'all. And help everyone be just a little bit better quality of life. Just like this. Just like this. Because I can free up the pathway of using a number of complementary things, like just get your breathing right. Job one, first things first, get your breathing right. Understand. You're supposed to be breathing through your nose. You're not supposed to be mouth breathing. Asthma all over pretty much is about the switching to mouth breathing. Mouth breathing is very upper chest. This is very much about the fear response, anxiety. It's a very real physical state. Like as somebody, my own nervous system stuff is, I really can't use respiration to calm myself down on. I've tried. I have my resting state, when I catch myself just starting to count, can typically do, it's typically 2 breaths a minute. I do 9 count in, hold for 9, 9 count out, hold for 9. That is one day. It's like my body drew my attention that I had that capacity. It was like the first time I had started to count in a long time, and 9 times 4, y'all. You do that math for me? It's 36. So that's like 2 breaths in 72 seconds. That is physiological freeze. It's a person in current trauma stress disorder. The neglect freeze axis of people who can't recollect trauma as we've talked about it as a succinct circumstance, quite a long list. But what I'm trying to say is that the concept of trauma, as we're also commonly looking for it in our lives to unpack why we're fucked up as we age. That's what healing trauma is all about. I'm fucked up right now, doing the best I can, but there's like this thing I can't fix, like in my case, just earning money, because I went deep into myself, back and forth and around and forth, and it's not me. It's the economic system of capitalism. It's twin from birth with the dehumanization of racism. Capitalism is not only nowhere near the most optimal type of economy, it only became successful because it employed slavery from the start until right now. Think about maternity leave in 2020, before we got all work from home. But as the policy still exists. Women have, it's called a disability, pregnancy. On one side, science tells us reproducing is the primary drive of humans. But it's a disability for a woman to be pregnant in corporate America. That is so much fucking cognitive dissonance. Yo. And then the women mothers have to still fully right in the early stages of nurturing and nourishing this child back to the cubicle captivity. It's not slavery of a sort. Off-familying parenting at that young an age? No wonder every child has ADHD these days. No wonder such a large percentage of them are now autistic or failure to thrive. Right? They're hyper ramped up. This is the active trauma, fight, flight. Or they're just like stupefied, numbed out, like frozen, like fuck is going on this goddamn planet? Like I'm a human being. I'm supposed to be moving and joyful. But y'all are just so mean and so loud and so. Hearing the word mental-bation from Aubrey Marcus during his 2-hour podcast of explaining his darkness retreat. And he's just slightly earlier, he was talking about turning on his recorders. And I really thought he actually had like figured out how to turn on a voice recorder or something. I hadn't yet gotten back to I didn't darkness. But I've lived pretty much like consistently for years in like under 30% of normal human variation. I know how to totally make DMT. I know what it feels like. I'm demonstrating it to you right now. Just because I'm fly like that. Nobody's getting me. But I am a human potential in the way that I just am demonstrating how quickly I can, for the very first time in my life, hear the word mental-bation. Be like, that, how had I never heard this before? And how can I, and it just is unleashed in me creativity to pull a Pippin. And it's really trippy because I want to demonstrate to you, Aubrey, it's possible. I have some morning cannabis I ingest. Custom little coconut oil infusion I make. Basically every morning. Otherwise, I've not done any plant medicine or any drugs. Not even inhaled. And I believe there's a difference. I would love to, again, I'm looking to become a thinking leader. Forget about thought leader. Forget about that coalesce bit. Be the first, internet's first thinking leader. Like this, this chick will just go off intelligently and help you be more creative about thinking about the bleeding edge of human potential. But that story, she's just like healing her childhood trauma because 52 years with nobody to talk to. So now she's just talking and just you listen, you want to, but she's talking. And I'd like to be able, Aubrey, to find, some collaborators to do this motherfucker right. To be as free as I possibly want to be, I need a financial patron. Because I can blow the shit up of all the systemic concepts, like racism and how the law and the financial, I just blow it all up subtly by describing what melanin is in a way that only an idiot can disagree. Melanin unites us. Melanin exists everywhere in most life. Giraffe patterns are just like my freckles. And melanin, this is proprietary intellectual property. Done a study in the 1970s in Italy. It says that melanin is the most efficient organic cell semiconductor. Melanin transduces electromagnetic energy from the sunlight. Melanin transduces it into energy. Alongside, in combination, intersected, matrixed with the ingestion biological pathways. The sun is so important, but it only indicates one thing when we're talking about darker skin color. The optimal latitude, where the average median of all of our ancestors, when we live on that latitude, we're in homeodynamic balance. How much energy we get from the sun and how much energy we get from the kinds of food that we co-evolved to eat. There's this perfect plateau of pulling together your actual skin hue and the latitude that's optimal for you. And we can make an algorithm where you're 30 degrees away or 60 degrees away. You supplement with vitamin D, or you do more dancing and singing, etc., etc. Dancing and singing is piezoelectricity. It's semiconductors, everything is frequency. Pull in my sound healing tuning forks. I'm just kind of wrapping things up with more to come. I know I just blew past my pip in there, but I got into like a little wrapping things up, little like post. Deb's got a lot of shit to talk about. She's got a number of really innovative intellectual property pieces of her own. She doesn't really cite the citers in the world. She's got some first sources that are relatively unique and are very integrative. People who come at a silo from a contextualizing across a very dynamic ecosystem of knowledge. I'm zooming off into being so in this vision that I can't keep it in rein with my language capacity. It's back to you, Aubrey. Yeah, I like really thought you electronically got to record, and you were just talking about, the fact that, in theta, like you don't really record. You just are part of. But then when you get up into high gammas, there's the whole performance aspect of it, right? And I have televised my evolution in this capacity to do this kind of improvisational, like morning page, stream of consciousness, video journaling, kind of in a conversation, sort of prompted from you. It's an asynchronous conversation that it feels to me like why I'm having so much fun, and just on and on and on. I think you're going to get to watch this. I think you're really, really going to respond to this. And maybe like I'm creating in you right now, whether you do get to watch this or not, the sense of me. So however we do intersect, it's kind of immediate rapport. I've entrained us non-locally. Does it work? Dare you to come over. Red Rover, I dare Aubrey to transverse the quantum field over here. Harmony, Deb out.